counting the.
Cost of being a battery engineer.
Wow. Oh, Daniel. So how did you get into engineering stuff for the battery?
Yeah, so I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and from a young age, I was always interested in like physics and didn't really know what type of engineering I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to get into engineering. My dad's an engineer. He kind of steered me in that direction. So I always like math and science, doing science experiments. So when I got to college, um, I decided that energy was interesting to me. So I took a class, public speaking class, and I did like a talk on fossil fuels and how fossil fuels were going to end up being kind of phased out and run out in America and different parts of the world. So I was like, wow, how can I use my engineering skills to kind of transition to the future? Um, so make a long story short, I got a research opportunity to work with my mentor, who now just finished his PhD with it's like thermoelectric generators, which is, to put it in simple terms, it's like a refrigerator in reverse. So instead of your refrigerator taking power, you can use like a hot and cold object to generate electricity. So I got really interested in that. It was really interesting, and I got to learn circuits and thermal modeling, and I picked mechanical engineering as my major. And yeah, I did another research project. I joined the racing team, electric. It's called the hybrid. It was called High Tech Racing at Georgia Tech, and we were building an electric race car. And
Wow.
yeah, I joined kind of late, but I got to work on the brake system a little bit, and I had a great time up in Vermont, and that's where I met LG, and they gave me my first internship. And the rest is history. I've been working there for almost 4 years now, and I've been able to work on batteries for cars um, and different applications, and just make a difference. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. So you grew up doing experiments at home with your dad?
Yeah, so um, we used to work on the car together, changing the radiator, changing the brakes. Um, we didn't do too many like science experiments with my dad, but I always liked the ones in school, like, dropping a ball, calculating how long it's going to take to drop, and or putting pulleys together to determine how you can lift heavy objects. And I actually did a lot of computer network stuff on the side, which is kind of not related, but I was always getting into something engineering related.
Wow.
Yeah.
Actually, it sounds like your brother Julian and you are went to the same school, didn't you guys?
Yes. Yeah. We started off at Georgia Perimeter College, and then we transferred to Georgia Tech together.
Did you guys go to the school at the same time?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Wow, was it a
Yeah.
coincidence or was it planned?
You know, my brother, he was interested in a lot of different things when he first started, like languages and international business. So he was looking at Emory, which is another university in Georgia. But I was always interested in engineering. But once he kind of transitioned to computer science, we thought, Georgia Tech is the best school in Georgia for engineering, so let's just try and go together. And it was great. We lived together for 2 or 3 years. Yeah,
Wow, that's amazing. So, what kind of engineer is your dad? Was your dad or?
yeah. My dad, he's a water and sewer director. So he's an engineer by trade, but he's a director at this point. So he does a lot of pipe calculations. You know, if a million people in the world are in the city are flushing the toilet, how do you get that? I know it sounds gross. I'm sorry.
No, I think it's very necessary.
Yeah, but how do you get all that waste to the water treatment plant? How do you treat it and then turn it back into water that you can drink eventually?
Yeah, I think it's kind of naive and kind of childish to think that it's gross to describe it because you're using it every day. We shouldn't think it's a gross process. It's somebody has to do it,
Hmm.
and I think it's absolutely fantastic work that you have to do. So, did your dad influence you intentionally in becoming an engineer, or did you guys see how cool it is to work as an engineer? Did you guys grow up talking about science all the time? And I remember your brother talking about homeschooling. So how did that family dynamic factor into you becoming an engineer?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that question because I think parents know how to do things subtly, not like overtly. But he would always give me like Legos, Bionicles. Like my favorite toy out of all time is Transformers. Like I would get the Transformers. I loved it. Like you got a car and then turns into a robot, and we were always building things. We had a couple of robotic toys that he would give us, like our remote control. So like put different motors together, and they they did like a specific task. And I was like, man, if I could do this for a living, I would love it. So he just kind of put those things in my path. And when I got a little bit older, he would teach me a little bit more advanced math, like algebra. And I thought it was so cool how you can do these puzzles. In my mind, they were like puzzles and how to find a solution. And yeah, I think so. He did direct me in that path, but he was always open for whatever I wanted to do.
Wow, that's amazing. Your dad helped you with academics and both, and also hands-on the experiences you could have, you had as a boy. So, did your mom also teach you for homeschooling experience?
My mom was very helpful. She kind of helped me on the reading side, and
Oh,
um, she would give me a lot of books to read. Me and my brother were like super big readers. This was
wow,
before smartphones, so
wow.
a lot has changed. But we, I mean, I'll be honest, we read a lot of fantasy and stuff like that. But I thank God that I'm kind of free from that stuff.
Okay,
but
okay.
but yeah, we read a lot, and then I I started to read, some biographies and um, yeah, some more science related books.
Wow.
So
So, how did she create an atmosphere of reading uh, a lot at home? Like, was she a reader
mm.
or was there no TV at home? Like, how did that happen? Because, I mean, I grew up watching TVs all the time, even though, and also like playing a lot of video games and stuff, and I regret doing all
Mhm.
that. So, how did it happen?
Oh, yeah, don't get me wrong. I played a lot of video games too, but she always read to us. I remember this French. It was either French or Dutch book because she's actually quadrilingual, bilingual. I'm not sure how to say
Wow.
it, but she speaks four languages. So yeah, so she read to me this French book. I remember, but she read to me like a lot of like popular American books like Flat Stanley and Magic Tree House. So she would read to me, and then she said, "Hey, you read this book, and then write a report, like a short paragraph or two about the book, and then I'll
Wow.
give you a reward."
Wow.
And then I remember in school we always had book club. I don't know if kids still have book club, but we read a book, write a report, and then if you read enough books, you can get like a prize at the end.
Oh.
Yeah, so like that kind of started me off.
Wow. That's absolutely like spectacular because I didn't grow up reading books and now I kind of regret. I think every successful person is a reader, and then they usually have family influence over them, and they get a jump start from that influence. So I think I think it you had a really good backdrop in becoming an engineer. How do you think we are far in terms of trying to replace fossil fuel with uh, alternative energy at this point?
Mm, good question. So, if you're keeping track of like the news and automotive news, especially, you can see that there's a big push for electric vehicles. Like General Motors made an announcement that I believe by 2027 or 8, that they would have like 70% electric vehicles, or um, Sweden, like some countries in Europe, like Sweden, announced a ban on electric or gas powered engines by like 2025 or 2026, something around there. So that's one side of the equation. I think it's a good step, but it's not the whole equation because you still have to generate the electricity, right, to charge these vehicles, and you need to upgrade the grid to handle all that charging. Because right now we couldn't, our grid could not handle that. It would just shut down.
Yeah.
So a lot of work still needs to be done. Solar power is gaining, ground. We need to have more solar solar farms, or also wind farms. Um, so even though we're moving to electric, there's still a lot more work to be done to replace the plants, like the power plants, with renewable energy.
Okay.
So I think it's a little bit better than having gas cars everywhere
Okay.
because you don't need as many distribution pipelines and things like that. You can kind of direct all the oil to one place, but um, a lot of biofuels are coming out, and water power, and maybe even nuclear power. So it still has a ways to go, but we're heading in the right direction.
Wow. Yeah, because it's kind of all of a sudden I heard electric cars having so many problems.
Mm.
Company doesn't want to. I mean, I'm talking about Hyundai, Korean company. Hyundai doesn't want to be responsible for the faulty batteries. They are blaming customers for the problems they cause. So I thought, okay, electric cars are far from. I mean, how much they have come is so far from what they want to do in the future. And
Mm.
all of a sudden, it's like crazy push when I read newspapers. And as you just said, we need to pretty much renovate the whole landscape of how we do energy, how we drive cars.
Mm.
So I think it's gonna take a lot of years, decades to get this thing settled. Um, so, um, but my question as a layperson is, electric cars does use energy. So is it
Mm.
actually more environmentally friendly to drive electric cars, to have everything, solar panels and everything? How do you know which way is actually more earth friendly?
Yeah. So hybrid vehicles, actually, I read an article recently that hybrid vehicles are not too much better than regular gas cars because people don't like to charge their car. They like to just put gas in it, let let the engine charge up the battery for them, and just keep going.
Uh-huh.
But I can say that fully electric cars, are more environmentally friendly because, first of all, they can take some energy back when you brake. So when you instead of pressing on the brakes and like the rotors squeezing the calipers squeezing the rotors, and that just turning into heat, they actually use the electric motor to generate electricity. So every time you step on the brakes when you're in the city, you save some energy. So that's a good positive savings.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
but it mostly determines on where you live, what your local source of energy is. Like if you live in Saudi Arabia, most likely they're using like 100% oil. But if you live in, I don't know, Montana or somewhere where there's a lot of wind and other alternative energy sources, then you're definitely contributing to a better environment.
Oh, I see. Because my car, Sportage, that runs on diesel, gets turned off and then I have to turn it back on when it's in the red light, and then I turned off that sensor because I heard that it's not good for the car. So same kind of
Mm.
problem doesn't happen with the electric cars when they are not like when you're in the red light.
Actually, electric cars are very good at stopping and going.
Oh,
So that's their specialty, I would
oh
say.
wow.
Where they where they kind of aren't the best is on the highway. So that's where you're going to use a lot of electricity. You know,
Ah,
um, when it's especially yeah, when you're going like high speeds, your battery has to work extra hard, and
oh, I see.
it's not good for the battery. So
Ah,
you know, also in cold weather, the battery does a lot worse than in the
oh,
summertime.
I
So you
see.
got to watch out for that. Yeah,
I see. Wow. So
yeah,
I guess there are still some steps that I have to take to make it as competitive as diesel or gas. Um,
right.
I see. So in terms of working to invent superior batteries as an engineer, what kind of work do you actually do? What are the things that you actually work on?
Yeah. So I'm a mechanical engineer. Well, my title is design release engineer. So I always like to start off with like the three levels of batteries. So there's the cell, which is the basic level. If you open up your phone right now, you can see a battery like a square pack. That's really what a cell is. So it's basically electrodes that are wrapped and has electrolyte in it, and there's a cathode and like a positive terminal and a negative terminal. So that's like the basic element. So where my job comes in is connecting those cells together. So like those cells have to be welded together to make electrical connection to make the battery voltage higher and the capacity higher. So I will put together what you call a module that has some mechanical components, some sensors, like a cooling, some kind of cooling strategy, and I'll put that together. So I'm in charge of the design of those components, and
Oh,
and
wow.
if and also there's another level on top of that, which is the battery pack, which puts different modules together. So
Oh,
that's where you see like the Tesla, like basically the whole bottom of the Tesla is a battery pack.
oh,
So yeah,
wow.
some people work on the module level, some people work on the pack level, and then some people work on the cell level.
Oh, and you're working on the.
I mostly in my career worked on the pack level, you
Okay,
know, like having the cooling system and the brackets and things like that.
okay.
But I'm more transitioning to the module level now.
Oh, I see. Wow.
Yeah.
So you say you're designing module levels and cooling all that stuff. So I mean, obviously, you're not looking for aesthetics. Looking for function. So what is the
Mhm.
challenges? What is the goal? Where you had it? What is the challenge?
Right. So number one challenge is safety. So like there's a big push for safety. You know, you mentioned some of the issues like Hyundai is trying to get away from. Like so if you charge, sometimes if people overcharge the batteries, there can be some issues where they might catch on fire. So we want to put the right materials in there so that if a cell does catch on fire, then it doesn't explode or it just contains to a small area, so people can have a chance to get away and like be safe. So that's one aspect, and then the next aspect is you know energy density. So you want to make sure you're reducing the weight. You want to make sure the quality of the welds and the the components are as cheap as possible while still maintaining good function, so that you can get more range out of your batteries. So for me, I would look at every component, see where new technology is being developed, go to conferences, talk to new suppliers, and say, hey, what's the next generation of frames or foams or glue or electric connection boards. Like basically look at everything and try and reduce cost. Um, and then I would say, yeah, the final maybe the final aspect is just yeah, how can we produce as many of these as possible without having any quality issues? So making it easy to assemble and make hundreds of them a day.
Wow, that sounds super cool. You sound like a, I don't know, kind of some sort of a secret mission, some kind of spy. You have to extract information from different people. You have to come up with something better and something new. Wow.
Yeah, I'm I'm making it sound as cool as I can.
Wow. Actually, I was reading a book about agriculture because at one point I wanted to become a farmer, but I realized it was so much work and I'm kind of not as passionate about farming at this point. But I was reading a book about Toyota, the success of Toyota being implemented into agriculture, and then they were talking about how people in Toyota, so the engineers talk to customers all the time, and then those engineers work closely with salespeople. So they are not separate entities; they are one team, working for the customers' well-being, like they're better, meeting their expectation and everything. So, do you? So it sounds like you're working with industries and all these people that are developing things. So how far are you getting information straight from customers? Is it the norm, or do you think that's a good way to go? Just curious.
Um, wow, that's a great question. So where I currently am, I work for a tier one supplier, so that means we don't interface directly with the day-to-day people. Our customers are like General Motors or Ford or Hyundai, Honda. Those are we call them OEMs, which is like the car manufacturers. So we don't talk to customers per se. Those companies are our customers. So they tell us what they want, and then we try and fulfill what they want. And most of the time is they want cheaper batteries, more efficient, safer,
Oh, I see.
basically everything at the same time.
Oh, I see.
So
They want everything.
yeah,
I think I kind of said it
exactly.
wrong. I think the salespeople gather information for engineers to implement. I think that's how it works. I think
Mm.
that's so. Do you guys work with salespeople at all? Like, do they tell you what the customers want? I guess not as much.
Yeah, yeah. We have sales and marketing team, so they will be like, hey, um, we need to create a product that has this is what the customer wants. We want something that's safe. It has to cost this much, and they kind of negotiate. So the sales and marketing is very important because they pay like our salary. They negotiate how the customer is going to pay us, how many hours that we're working, um, what yeah what benefit like they kind of protect us. When things go wrong, they're like, hey, it's not our fault. You said this. So they're kind of like the barrier between us.
Yeah, yeah,
They kind of cover our back. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I see. Wow, that sounds pretty cool. So, so how have you been enjoying LG, Korean company, as an American?
LG, yeah. So it's an interesting dynamic because um, we're considered a foreign office because we're not in Korea. I know we met in Korea a couple of weeks ago, and that was my first time seeing the headquarters. So that's when I realized how big LG was and like how much of a global. I knew it was a big company, but seeing the office over there was pretty cool. But our office is pretty small. It's like less than 150, maybe 130 people. So,
That sounds super big to me.
well, actually, I take that back. There's another plant about 3 hours from where I live, they have about 1,000, like maybe 1,500 people there.
Wow.
So a lot of people. So, but I would say the Korean culture kind of translates to us a little bit, you know. Yeah, we've had a lot of night meetings, like early morning meetings. Uh, People, I mean, we don't stay as long as the Korean people do, but sometimes we have to stay late. Um,
Yeah.
but Koreans are very methodical. I mean, on average, from what I've seen, very methodical and very hierarchical. So, uh, very respectful too, I would say.
Okay.
So, we, I would say there's still American culture within
Okay.
LG that people talk back and people kind of go across, skip level, and
Yeah.
yeah. So, but I love Korean culture because they get the job done, and yeah, they're very dedicated, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you experience some sort of culture shock?
Oh, yeah, I did a little bit. I mean, people don't talk as much like casually if you don't know the person. I noticed that. So like, I would walk into the elevator and I would say, "Oh yeah, 안녕하세요." People would just kind of look at me like, "Okay," but but but
Yeah.
when my colleagues were so friendly, they were so inviting, they like so attentive. Like they got me soy milk from their grocery store and like so many random things.
Okay.
Hey, did you eat? Did you drink? Like, are you tired? Do you want to go to the hotel? You want to see Korea? So they were just like really awesome. So I loved Korea for the 2 weeks I was there.
Oh, I see. So in simple words, what do you think are the pros and cons of Korean element?
Okay, pros and cons. So I guess the culture is um, so for my job. I think a con is sometimes it can be a little bit closed-minded as far as
Yeah.
who they work with.
Yeah.
I know LG works with only Korean suppliers.
Really?
So like, yeah, which is good for their economy, obviously.
Okay.
So like the bus bars and the frames and
Oh.
the interconnect boards, everything is made by a Korean company,
Oh, okay.
which boosts their own economy.
Okay.
But it doesn't allow us to innovate as much, like use American suppliers
Oh.
or Japanese. So
Oh.
that's one con. But I think a pro is they're very detail oriented. Um, they like to collaborate a lot.
Mm.
So a lot of um, the files are organized. Everything is put in the right place. There's a lot of like culture regarding integrity or
Okay.
information security.
Oh.
There's like an honor culture. Like
Okay.
no one does anything to damage the company, right? Like it's
Oh.
just a very collective culture. So
Ah, I see.
yeah,
They
we
don't.
we
They
have
don't.
something called. Go ahead.
They don't like sue the company for their individual right. Like they stay away from the kind of like corporate mindset, right? Everybody sacrifice
Right.
yourself for the good of the company, kind of thing.
Exactly. Exactly. They stay at they stay at the office. When I was there, they stayed until like 9 p.m. sometimes or 10 p.m.
Yeah.
just to get the job done, and
Yeah.
it's very honorable. Like you don't complain a lot.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds pretty cool. So what is your schedule like?
My schedule, it really depends on what I have going on. There was, I think late last year, I was wrapping up, I was in the build phase of my project. So I woke up, I went to the manufacturing room, and we kind of just got all the parts and we were just building the battery pack. We were building this really big battery pack with like I think it was like 350 cells. So that was pretty hands on. So you come up with issues and stuff like that. So I would just work on that from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, like record the issues and kind of work out what the solution will be. But earlier on in my career, I had a lot of meetings throughout the day. Um, I was meeting with the customer, and I would work on paperwork and go to the lab and do some experiments. So it was more diverse in my day.
Okay.
So it really just depends on what projects I have going on.
So your work determines the schedule, not like 9 to 5. Like you can go home.
It's not. Oh, okay. In that case, mostly it's 8 to 5, nine,
Okay.
8 to 5. Yeah.
8 to 5, and then if there work to be done, you have to stay longer, kind of thing.
Right. And the other way it goes, like if you're done with your work, you can leave at 4.
Okay.
So it's not too strict.
Oh, I see. Wow, cool. So how happy are you with your work, and what's your future plan? Is my last question.
Um, I would say I'm happy with my work. I'm happy with the industry I'm in. Um, I got to work on some cool projects, and I got to contribute to the electric vehicle space. So my future plans are actually to work for a new company fairly soon.
Okay.
So I'm excited about that journey. I'm gonna. You mentioned agriculture. I'm actually gonna work for an agricultural company actually. So it's
Oh,
pretty funny you said that.
wow, that's
So
awesome.
yeah, so I'm excited. So I'm gonna stay in the battery industry, but kind of move towards a different sector. So
Wow, awesome. So do you have any like personal goal that you have as a person? Like, I want to become this kind of person for the society, or for the family, or for the neighborhood. I don't know, like not like something overarching that influences every aspect of your life. Some kind of
yeah,
philosophy.
definitely. Yeah, so um, I most of all want to be, you know, an influence for good. I think my worldview influences that. I'm a Christian, um, more specifically Seventh Day Adventist, and I try to show that when I'm at work. And I think being Adventist is sometimes difficult because there's conflicts with the Sabbath and uh, like integrity of the job. But most of all, I want to make a difference and show that whatever I do, I want to do it to the best of my ability, as if I'm doing it for God, and just be a good neighbor to my neighbors, a good coworker, and just to represent Christ wherever I go. So that's my main goal.
Wow. So how did you deal with like challenges like that came about because of your conviction or faith, or if there was,
Mm.
or did it was a I don't know, did it turn out to be something better, or how did that work?
Yeah, so I think the best thing to do is be upfront early with your manager. Uh, yeah, I was blessed to have understanding managers, and um, I think especially in the United States, there's a lot of tolerance for religious freedom. So I remember there was one time where my manager called me on Saturday, and I told him like, hey, this is my Sabbath. I can come in on Sunday. I can come in late any day, but from this time to this time, I I, I focus on God. So um, you have to be a little bit brave because you never know how they're going to react. But
How did they take
I
it?
know guys, surprisingly, they're understanding. I have a lot of Muslim coworkers, and they're understanding when it comes to the prayers. And I think if you make an impact and you show that you're a good worker, they will respect you. So that's really the best way I can put it.
I
But
think I think when faith is
yeah.
something uplifting and practical and useful, and get the work done, and then when it turns into a better person, I think it really contributes to the good of the society. But when it's eccentric and kind of like stupid and hypocritical, I think it's really just bad straight up. So I think it
Yeah,
depends how you use
yeah,
it.
you could, right. You gotta be sincere.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think at this point, most people at work know I'm a Christian, and um, yeah, I've had some good conversations based on like, oh, you don't eat pork, or oh, you don't. Yeah, I was at a restaurant and I'm vegetarian, so I ordered like a veggie burger, and then this guy, this guy was like, "Oh, are you a dentist?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a dentist." And then he said his wife used to be a dentist, and it was just another connection, and
Wow,
I invited him to church, and we were able to become friends. So yeah,
that's awesome.
it's great. It's good.
Wow. Well, thank you for answering all the questions, and hope I can do this in a few years again if you can make time.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, thanks for showing me around Korea, Seoul.
Yeah. Anytime you visit, do you think you're gonna visit sometime?
If I do, I'll be with my brother so he can help translate for
Sure,
me.
sure.
Yeah.
I'll be there for you guys. Just let me know. Just text me.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for doing this. I think it's almost time to sleep.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to watching your other videos. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Good night.
Have a good
Or
night.
good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Bye bye.
Bye.